So I'm not going to pry at your childhood a whole lot because I obviously want to get you into the biggest thing of your life. I mean, what I would consider, which is you creating this massive brand. So take me to Penn now. You're out of Penn. You're a college student. You're probably bright-eyed. You have this great degree. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, so the degree was great. The economy wasn't so great. And I was coming out of college. The best jobs were in investment banking. I knew I didn't want to go into investment banking, but I just wanted to see if I could get a job in investment banking. And sure enough, I got an offer from Oppenheim Investment Bank to do investment banking for Latin America. And I totally freaked out before signing an offer because I knew it's just not me. Pulling in like 80 hours a week, it just didn't align. I didn't know much about aligning with your essence, really being true to yourself, but I just had this like strong gut, this is not for me, rescinded the offer, and ended up getting a job from a guy who came out of Wharton and started a company called Reality Online. It was like early internet days, and he sold it for like $250 million a year later, or 2 years later, to Reuters, which was a big technology and news agency.
Yes.
And it happened that they had a woman who was giving birth sooner than they planned. She already been on the job for 10 years. They said, well, fake it till you make it, just see what you can do, and ended up doing her job and did it really well. It was being a project manager, creating a software. So I was designing it between the engineers and the front end users, like really being in technology. And the product was dial-up trading systems.
Okay.
Like really technology based, all technology. So they ended up moving me to New York. I started working for Reuters and selling data systems to trading floors. Not what I really wanted to do, but it was a good job. It paid well, paid for my life in New York. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I called my mom and I said, Mom, I really don't think I love it. I think I want to be an actress.
Interesting.
And she's like, I don't know what you're smoking, but she's told me,
get your shit together. What are you
doing?
Get
it together, because my parents actually never helped me.
Gotcha.
I took out student loans, and that was that. I said, like, okay, do I really want to struggle and be an actress? And that was the first time I got scared and I didn't do what I wanted to do. And who knows, maybe by then I would have gone and become an actress and gone on a few shows. Nobody knows, because I decided I don't want to take the risk.
Right.
Okay. I ended up doing really well, and my job paid off my student loans by the time I was 26, because I made a lot of money.
Wow.
And said, I'm done here. I'm going to go into commercial real estate. I became a broker in commercial real estate, which really helped me with Jetset when I was building and starting Jetset in Miami. Because when you start a company that has to take on space, whether it's offices or retail, you can hire and fire somebody who's not a good employee, but once you have a lease, you're stuck with it for 10 years. So when I was working commercial real estate in New York and they moved me later to London, I've learned all the little tricks. And actually there was one story when I took a lease for Jetset in North Miami, long time ago. It was a big REIT. I think they were like $3 billion REIT. And I was negotiating my own lease. And everybody in the big plaza had like tiny, small printed language. There's a relocation provision that the landlord could move you at any time. And I said, I'm not willing to sign that. I want no relocation. And they're like, nobody paid attention. They let me sign it. We're there 6 months later. The landlord knocks on the door and says, sorry, there's Alta Beauty, a huge tenant. You have to move. And I said, sorry, but I signed a no relocation provision. And they're like, oh my God, how did this happen? What do we need to do? And I said, I want a check for $100,000 and you build out my whole space all over again and pay for everything.
Yeah.
Including like me moving the chair next door. And they did it.
Wow.
So like little things, it's not what built Jetset, but obviously this was like the little thing when you savvy and you kind of pay attention to little details.
Yeah.
It could take you a step further.
It's so interesting that you just said that, because the second guest I had, he is a restaurateur, and he would have to pitch locations all the time. He's like, look, let me open up. Now he's at the place now, which I'm sure you are as well, where they're now pitching him, and it's like such a shift. And here you are, you used to do your own leases as well. You were like, no, I want to be in this space, this. But also your life, I don't know if you noticed, it skips like into 3 different realms, and very casually. So you had to be the type of woman that was just like up for like challenges, right? Because you went, let's think back. You started in finance, Okay.
Technology and finance, yeah.
Yeah, then technology. And then you're like, I could be an actress, but you know what? Mom's like, I'm sure she's a really smart woman. She's like, hey, like, rethink this. You're like, okay. Now I'm in real estate. And then, you know, it seems like you're just the type of person that's like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to restart. Because obviously you have to get your license, all those things, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I sure did. I got my license. But I also started to read books about how do you create legacy in America, being an immigrant. How do you build wealth and legacy? And I started reading books about building a real estate portfolio. And that was kind of the route for me, I felt. But what happened is, you know, life happens when you're busy planning it. I got married in New York. I met my ex-husband in New York. He's a wonderful guy. Yeah. And within like a month of getting married, we moved to London. So before moving to Miami, I lived in London for 5 years. And that's where my first daughter was born. And that's actually where I discovered Pilates.
So London, okay, so yeah, so now you're in London, and this is where your daughter's born, and now you're I'm sure thinking, okay, London's the place now. Yeah. I'm starting Pilates. Now, Pilates were introduced to you, because this is a big part of the story. How did the woman who created Jetset get introduced to Pilates?
So I didn't even think I was going to start Jetset when I lived in London. What happened is I gave birth, and I think a lot of women can relate to what happens. It's kind of, you know, I know there's a lot of pictures on Instagram today with the way you should be eating and how you should be exercising, but my daughter is 18, so you can track back. We didn't have it back then, and I wasn't eating right. I was working. I was going on the tube every day to work, sitting in an office at Cushman & Wakefield. I gained like 60 pounds, and when I came out of, you know, delivery room, and it was pretty traumatic, I now know that I was depressed. I was so unhappy with the weight gain. It was just like a dark moment for me. And I remember walking with a stroller and seeing construction in the basement, and then coming a week later and seeing like a machine standing in the basement of like a little townhouse in London. It was in Kensington. And the owner came out. Her name is Jess. She ended up building her chain of studios in London called Hardcore. And she's like, yeah, I'm opening a Pilates studio. Why don't you come? And I think I was her client number one. And within 6 months, I think I shredded my body to the point where I would go out to like places in London, and women would, what do you do to work out? And I was in a better shape than before I gave birth. But I think the link there is that it was mental, because Pilates, back then nobody knew what Pilates was, but Pilates is really the modality where you cannot be thinking of two things at the same time. You can ride a bike and you can space out. You can run a treadmill and you can space out and think about the day. But if you're not listening to the instructor speaking to you, it's all verbal. You're going to lose. You're not going to know what you're doing. So you like, your brain checks out for 15 minutes. So I always felt so happy. And I'm like, what is it about Pilates that I feel like I'm a Pilates addict, which is better than anything else, I guess, if you're an addict. But
exactly,
it was
a healthy addiction.
It was a good addiction.
Yeah.
And that's really like was where I discovered as a client. It was very different. You know, it was like in a basement, just a few reformers. When I created Jetset, I wanted it to be an experience.
Right.
But for me, that was the transformative moment. I think it changed my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to lose it when I moved to Miami and I literally couldn't find a studio that I liked. And that's how Jetset came about.
So Jetset was filling a need for you at first, when obviously it was just like an idea, maybe I'll go into this, but you were shredding weight as a woman who, I'm sure a lot of women can relate to this. You're coming out of your pregnancy, right? And then this other woman comes up to you and says, this is Pilates. And look, I'm not going to talk about Pilates a whole lot because, like I said, I'm going to let you explain it. But for men that follow me, why is Pilates catching on with women so much? Like, break it down as if I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, what about Pilates is so appealing for women? Because men, we don't seem to cling to it. Now, I could be wrong. There could be men in your class, and I don't mean to take a shot at them. But I don't have the guy friends that are like, hey, Chris, let's go hit the morning Pilates. I don't have it yet, you know.
Go hit it for the girls.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I wanted to go meet some women, I'm sure, like, I would